Hello everyone, Shinto Bean here, and in this video I'm going to be doing a rundown of how much my entire army of Seraphon cost me. First of all, I'll be talking about how much it would cost to buy it all straight from Games Workshop, and then I'll talk about how much I actually spent on it, and then go into more detail about the contents of each box and sort of the process of assembling them and what I was able to get out of buying all these different boxes. So, let's get started here, and we'll talk about how much this would all cost when buying from old Games Workshop. So, this is sort of more or less what I have in my collection. You can get from all of these boxes here. So, here is the list of everything on there. So, there are a total of 3 start collecting boxes, and then there's Lord KROAK and the STEGADON, got a Slant Starmaster, some KROAK, Salamander, and then a unit of SAURUS Guard. So you can see the prices over there on the right, and they are pretty expensive. Games Workshop, I think, recently increased the prices of a lot of their stuff. This is based off of what is on their web store, and it is in American dollars. I'm actually in Japan, so a lot of these things are even more expensive here in Japan. So the grand total of all this would cost you a whopping $705, and this is a pretty excessive army. It's like nearly 3,000 points worth of units, so you certainly don't need this many for an army, but I wanted, a decent amount of variety so that I could build a few different lists and be able to change things up. So I did not actually spend this much money, so I'll go into how much I did spend and where I actually bought all of the models from. So, some of the boxes were the same, and we'll just go through here, the start collecting boxes are definitely a really great deal. So I got 2 of the start collecting SAURUS and 1 of the start collecting SKINKS, and then I got Lord KROAK. All of those I actually bought on Amazon, because they were listed as a little cheaper, although you do have to pay for shipping, and then shipping to Japan is a little bit expensive because I was buying them from the American Amazon, but it still ended up being cheaper than it would be buying it straight from Games Workshop. Then the STEGADON unfortunately was not on Amazon, so I did have to buy that from the Games Workshop website. I think I paid a little more because I was buying it from the Japanese website, I think. And then everything else I actually bought was third-party stuff, like 3D printed models, and the Slan and the Salamanders I bought off of Etsy. Those were quite cheap, but the Salamanders unfortunately did not come with bases, so I had to buy those separately. I ended up buying them from the Warhammer store locally, and it was about $10 for a pack of bases. And then for the last, the KROAK and SAURUS Guard, those would have been quite a bit more expensive even buying third-party models, but I was very fortunate in that I was able to meet someone who actually owns a 3D printer, and he had the files for those models and was like, hey, I can just print those for you for $10. I was like, okay, why not? So yeah, pretty lucky there, but the grand total here was about $500, so about $200 less than what I would have spent had I bought them all straight from Games Workshop. This is, of course, not including all the extra stuff that you need to buy in order to assemble and paint them, though. There's also the Battle Tome as well, if you want the rules. So, for those things, I'm living in Japan, and there is this amazing store called the Daiso, and you can buy almost everything you need to survive for $1. I mean, it's so much better than the dollar stores we have in America, and the quality of a lot of this stuff is actually quite nice. So I bought all my super glue there, I bought a bunch of paintbrushes there. I think these are called nippers. I've never actually bought them. I was a little bit lazy and decided to use nail clippers to cut out all of the sprues, which I would not recommend. It does not cut them out very cleanly, but if you are really on a budget, it is possible. For the spray paint for the undercoat and priming the models, I used the Citadel spray paint, which is pretty expensive. It was like $30 a can, but I don't know enough about spray paint that I didn't trust myself to be able to find the right kind. using other brands. So I just bought that straight from the Warhammer store. But for the actual paints I used to paint my army, I just bought a set of 30 acrylic paints. It just came in a single box. Lots of colors there. They are pretty bright, but I kind of wanted to go for a brighter, more flamboyant color scheme, so it worked out. And yeah, there's enough paint in there to probably paint about 5 armies. So had I purchased the Citadel paints from Games Workshop, that would have cost me hundreds of more dollars, I think. So this was definitely a great deal. The one thing is, this set didn't actually come with metallic colors, so I did have to buy those separately because the lizard men, they have a lot of bling. They got a lot of gold in their color scheme. Now I'm going to go into talking about the contents of each box, and I took pictures of the individual models to show you what you can build. So from the Start Collecting SAURUS boxes, of which I bought 2, you can build a total of 24 SAURUS warriors and 16 knights. Now this is an odd number because you need 10 warriors for a unit, and then a unit of knights consists of 5 models. So you get kind of an odd number, and if you just buy 1 box, it's not enough to really make much of a battle line. So get 2 boxes and then now you're talking. You can also build one of these monsters, either the Carnosaur or Troglodon. The first one I built was the Troglodon, and I actually built it wrong. It's supposed to have a big fin on its back, but I built the Carnosaur back on it by accident, and I also put the reins on wrong, but it turned out alright, I think. And then after that I decided, well, the Carnosaur looks pretty cool, so I better build that too. So I've got the old blood on Carnosaur there. Now if you build the Troglodon, you actually will also be able to build an old blood on foot. However, if you build the Carnosaur, you can't build the one on foot because there's only one torso for the old blood. It's kind of weird, but what I did though was I actually tried my hand at kit bashing, and I built this astrolith bearer using the torso of one of the regular SAURUS warriors and then the limbs of the old blood. So it ended up being like really, there were these big gaps in the model that I had to fill with basing material. It was pretty rough, but I think after painting it up, it looks decent enough. So I was pretty happy with how that turned out. Next up is a Start Collecting SKINKS box, which is just a little bit more expensive. You still get a lot of bang for your buck though. I mean, if you bought all these individual models, it would cost you like twice as much. So if you are looking into, starting to collect any Warhammer army, really, these boxes are definitely a good deal. In this one you get 12 SKINKS, which can be outfitted with a number of different weapons. I went with the javelins because they looked the coolest, and that was before I actually looked at the rules and realized that the bolt spitters were probably the better option. But javelins it is. It was too late by that point. You also get 1 Star Priest. It's a wizard on foot. Pretty cool looking model there. And then 3 Pterodon riders, which can be equipped with either javelins or bolas. I went with the bolas because they look cooler. And you can also make them into ripperdactyls, but those are not as good as pterodons from what I know. And then the monster is the Bastiladon. This can also be equipped with either the solar engine there or the Ark of Sotek, which is the melee version. It unleashes a tide of snakes at the enemy. I wanted to use both, so I stuck some magnets on there, magnetized just the top bit so I could switch between the two. So I only have 1 Bastiladon, but I can use both types. Then we got Lord KROAK. This is a magnificent model. It's really amazing, but very complex, and assembling it gave me a headache. I mean, so many little pieces to glue together, and I actually made a pretty big mistake when I put the head together. There's actually a little piece that's supposed to go inside, which forms the eyeballs, and I forgot to put that in. So I made the skull, and I was like, wait, why does this look so weird? I went back to the instruction manual and realized what I had done, but it was already glued shut. I couldn't get it back together, so I was thinking what I should do, and then I saw that I had some little snake bits lying around, so I was like, what if I put those snakes into the eye sockets? And after about an hour of attempting that, I finally was successful. So now Lord KROAK has snakes in his skull. But it actually looked pretty good. The other kind of thing that makes this model unique is that normally the big head crest thing that he's wearing covers his eyes, but I wanted his eyes to be visible, so I had to do a little cutting off of that little hat thing so that his eyes would be visible. So this one will look slightly different from the Lord KROAK you will find if you just do like a Google image search. Alright, then we got the STEGADON. This also has several different weapons it can use. I definitely wanted to use the bow, so normally the bow actually sits a little further down, but I put it on top so that I could more easily change it out for the altar here, which can turn it into the engine of the gods. So again, using magnets, I can swap between those two. And then I also actually had a little spare skink sitting around, which I used as the skink chief. I can just throw them on the STEGADON there to turn it into the heroic option. Now onto the 3D printed stuff. I found this model, the Slan Star Master, on Etsy. It was a pretty cool looking model. This is the Games Workshop version. I really do not like this model. It just looks so ugly in my opinion, and I did not want to be spending 60 bucks on that, that's for sure. So the Etsy version was quite a bit better. I do actually have the original Slan Mage Priest back from Warhammer Fantasy, and I was thinking of using that at first. So I stuck it on a round base, but then I found the Etsy one, and I was like, okay, let's go with that. And then we got the salamanders. I could probably do a better job painting this. This is the Games Workshop version, which is definitely got a better paint job, but I think if they were painted by the same person, I'm pretty sure the one on the left has the better design. It's just really cool looking model. So I got 3 of those, and yeah, salamanders are very cool. And then we got the Kroxigors. The Kroxigor, I actually prefer the Games Workshop one. It is a little bit skinny, but the model looks pretty cool. The one on the left I found, there are actually a few different versions of third-party designs. This one, I believe, is actually based off of the model used in Total War Warhammer 2. I mean, it's like the exact same model. And the body looks good, but the head looks a little bit off, I think, so. I don't really use Kroxigors very much, but again, I was getting these basically for free, so I was like, whatever, I'll just add it to my collection. Same goes with the SAURUS Guard. I don't really use them much in battle, but this was a really cool looking model, and I was fortunate to have my friend be able to print those for me, compared to the Games Workshop version, which just looks like a slightly fancier SAURUS Warrior. I think the one on the left definitely looks better. Much more dynamic poses, and just the amount of detail on those models is really impressive. So that is it. If you were looking at getting into collecting, you can expect to spend quite a bit of money. If this is outside of your budget, but you still want to do some wargaming, you might look into some of the smaller scale games that focus on squads instead of armies, like Warcry and Kill Team. But if you're like me and prefer seeing these massive armies face off in epic battles on the tabletop, you kind of just have to go big or go home. So let me know if you have any questions about any of this. But that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.